Hello everyone, welcome back to the Industry Talks. Today we have a filmmaker. Her name is Maja Korsika. She is 17 years old and she was originally born in Lithuania, but when she was 14, she moved to New York, where she now attends a performing arts high school where she mainly directs and produces her own short films. She also got an early acceptance to NYU Film School, which is a huge accomplishment. I'm so happy that she decided to sit down with me, and here it is. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Industry Talks. Today we have someone very exciting. She is a filmmaker. Here she is. Introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, so my name is Maja, and I moved to New York City when I was 14 years old from Lithuania. It's a small country in Europe. And I've been doing film since I was 15, and I'm really excited to be here.
Awesome. So, first question, what made you want to, what started your filmmaking experience, and when did you make the decision that, okay, this is something I really want to pursue for a long time?
Probably right when I moved here, I started attending a performing arts high school. So everybody around me was like on Broadway since they were 7 years old and just doing as much as they can. And I was like, wow, I'm so behind on all of this. This was me, 14 years old. And I just jumped right into anything I could. I started dancing, I started acting. I really wanted to be an actress for a long time. And then my dance teacher was like, there's an opportunity with New York University. They were having these free workshops for a lot of different fields. And she was like, you should apply. And I was like, I don't know. And then the last night before the deadline, I decided, I'll just send in my all my information and all that. And then I got an interview and I was like, wow, okay. And then I got in. I was like, oh, it's just I didn't really know the prestige of New York University or any of that. This was my sophomore year of high school. And I just started doing it. And I realized that I really like being behind the camera much more than I like being in front of it. And just the fact that you can make the decisions and not just execute them, like when with acting, that just really drove me. And I just started making films and just like the fact that you can get your idea onto something and then other people like resonate with it. Yeah, that was kind of the start.
Wow, that's awesome. That's such a surreal thing to happen. You're like, oh, whatever. I guess I'll just send in my information. And they're like, yeah, sure, come learn about filmmaking. That must have been so cool. That was when you were sophomore year, so you were like 15 or 16.
Yeah, 15. Yeah.
Um, and so do you have a quote unquote process when it comes to coming up with an idea, pitching an idea to your collaborators, and then finally getting on set and filming it? How do you do that?
It's very different every single time, I have to say, but usually the idea just comes at the most random times. Sometimes I sit down and I'm like trying to think about something to make. For example, for my college application film, I would just sit down and I would be like, what if it was this story? And it just doesn't come that way to me personally. It just comes at the most inconvenient times, usually, like when I'm on the street, when I'm with friends, or sometimes even like in a dream, it appears. And yeah, I just usually the first thing to do is I bullet point every single kind of like scene in a way, and so I don't forget it. And then I go into writing a script, and then I send the script out to all of the people who I want to work with, and they either say yes, they either say no. And then we set on a date that works for everyone, and we just do it.
Wow. Do you do help with casting too, like whatever actors you're going to get into, or do you do people who you already know, are already friends with?
Usually people I already know, or at least like I've seen somewhere. I've never done like a really big casting. Sometimes I will put it on my social medias. So I just started TikTok, so hasn't happened yet. But sometimes I will put it on my Instagram stories. I will tell the dates and I'll see who's available and people will respond, and I'll kind of sort through things. But usually, since I go to a performing arts high school, I had a lot of actors who want to participate, who want to have something to put in their reels. So I think I'm fortunate to know a lot of people who know how to be on camera, and some people who haven't been on camera who I just see and I'm like, let's camera test, and they turn out great. So it's usually some kind of acquaintance or friend.
Oh, okay. That makes sense. And for your first ever, what was your first ever on-site experience like, and how has it changed since then?
I don't know if that counts. So my dad is a writer and a filmmaker back in Lithuania. He's like nobody would know him here. But I was actually born when my dad was on a film set, and my mom couldn't call, like she was calling him, but he couldn't pick up because his phone was off, and she was in labor while he was on a film set. So I would say that doesn't count. But my first ever was when my dad needed like a child in a scene, and they ran out of money in their budget. And to cast children, it's really expensive because there's a lot of these laws around child labor. So he was like, wait, I have a 7-year-old daughter. So he just pulled me in, and I had the small scene, one line. And I was like, wow, this is so cool. It was like a big kind of big space where there was an apartment made into it. And yeah, I just had one line. It was a movie about a Santa Claus and a kid with cancer, another kid. It was really interesting. But yeah, so he kind of just pulled me in and then bought me chocolate or something. And he was like, great. So yeah.
Oh my God. So that from the moment you were born, you've had some sort of connection to the industry entertainment world of it all. That is so cool. That's such a cool story to tell too. Like, oh, when I was born, did he end up coming to the hospital?
Yeah, he did. He did
Okay.
at the end.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. On set life is very hectic. Oh, and then how has it evolved since then? Like, what was your latest one? Things that you've learned on the way since the first time you were ever on a set.
So later on, there was a big gap until I started creating my own movies. And the first sets would be when we were at NYU, we would just go around the whole Tisch building, and just look for locations that could look like a restaurant or like a living room. So we just would bring in a ton of stuff from home and just make it kind of makeshift. So we would only have up to 5 people on set, which is also like kind of nice because you don't have this really big stressful moments where there's a lot of people running, but at the same time, you have to do like 5 roles at a time. But in the summer, I had my first bigger film set with around more than 20 people. So one of my friends was my PA, and it was so incredibly stressful. We worked from like 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. in the summer, like 4 days straight. Um, we were joking about how we were sponsored by Red Bull because everybody was drinking Red Bull on there. But yeah, we were just filming in so many different locations, and everybody was just running around, and everybody was so excited for it, which I just felt like it was stressful, nerve wracking, but also so exciting at the same time. But a lot of mistakes were made with such a big crew and not really knowing what to do with that many people. But you live and you learn, kind of.
Yeah, that's so true. Being on a set, like whether it's like a skeleton crew with like 5 people, or if it's a $1 million movie set where there's like 50 PAs, it's so like even being on a professional set, people make mistakes all the time. People know what they're doing, but when you're on set and everyone's trying to rush around, or if you're on a time slot, or you only have an actor here for so many hours, or you're trying to move to a location, like it's insane. Just watching, being on set, like from in front of the camera, watching everybody behind the camera when they say cut is just crazy. Like it's just madness. Everybody's running around, everybody's trying to like do 5 million things at once. It's also, like you said, the best when everyone is passionate about what it is that you're making. You don't want to have someone on set who like doesn't really want to be there, doesn't care for whatever the project is. Which leads me to my next question. This is kind of a big general question. How do you like to quote unquote run your set? Like how does the vibe on set affect everybody's work, do you think?
Oh, I think the vibe on set really affects everybody's mood because people really, when you're in especially a small space, all crammed up together for a long time, people just kind of start to feed off of each other's energy. So the thing that I started doing in my last few films is I always create a playlist, and usually it's a collaborative playlist, in which people can add their own music that kind of fits like the vibe of the film or something like that. And every single morning before we start filming, I would play that playlist, or just like so people just can get in the mood of filming. And then during lunch breaks, we kind of just completely disconnect from everything. So when it's a break, nobody's like allowed to talk about any of the scenes. We just play some random 2000s club music, we eat, and then everybody just kind of chills for a second. And I think breaks are really important because at some points it feels like, oh, now you're in the run, now you have to get the scene. But breaks are so important because you have to recharge and you have to let other people recharge too, because it's very easy to get overworked on a set when you're really passionate about something and then you're just getting 3 hours of sleep every single night. So I think breaks and just like music is a really big thing.
Yeah, that's a really good idea. Like making a playlist and being like, okay, everybody, like shut up. We're just gonna like listen to music and chill on our break. That's a really good idea. Did you come up with that, or was that like something you guys just decided on doing one time on set?
We just decided on doing it one time on set because we were filming a scene on a lake in the summer, and it was completely quiet. It was like 5 a.m. The sun was coming up. Nobody was there. So we brought out our speakers for the scene, and we didn't need the sound for that scene. And one of the characters had to be kind of like floating around dancing. We were like, we need some kind of like music just to get that flow in. And we just started playing it. And then we were like, wow, this could really work for some other places. So yeah.
Wow, yeah, that's awesome. And then, so once you've worked on a few sets, you've made a few films. How has the college experience been? Like searching, applying, acceptance, all that jazz. How has that experience been for you?
Oh, it's so stressful, and everybody in your class is basically going through the same thing. And a lot of people are also applying to like arts disciplines. Many of us are. So in a regular college process, usually just have to write an essay and then your SAT scores and maybe like why the school essay. And in a process where you're applying for a creative field, it's usually you also have to have a portfolio. And that portfolio takes such a long time to make because it's art is subjective, of course, and you never know who's going to read your essay or watch your portfolio. So I spent like about a year on taking everything, and because especially for NYU, they asked for like 5 things that all were super difficult, and they change every single year, so you can't really prepare completely. But yeah, I was lucky enough to get an early decision, so I kind of have now this time where I know where I'm going. But I initially had 18 schools on my list, and I had to prepare all of the materials for all of them. So because I was so scared, I'm still considered an international student, and international acceptance rates are like half of those for American students because nobody wants to pay for an international student. But I was lucky enough to get with NYU and get a scholarship, which I don't know how that even happened, but I cried so much that day, and I think it's worth it. Yeah.
Wow, that's like an amazing opportunity. I mean, NYU is like everybody knows NYU is. I mean, like the huge arts school, like right in the middle of the city. That's amazing. So huge congrats to you. Like kudos to you. I mean, I like your hard work pays off, and that portfolio probably was a pain in the ass to put together, but I mean, it paid off. So, um, so this is also kind of an overarching question. What has been the biggest lesson you have learned so far being a filmmaker and writer and director?
Well, there are a few, but maybe just to know that something will go wrong. And even if you can prepare absolutely everything, have your script to like all the details, all the shot lists, all the storyboards, something will go wrong. Someone will call off like the night before. Um, the weather, there will be rain one day when you have to shoot. The one day you have to shoot outside, there will be rain. Something like that. So something will always go wrong. And I think it all comes together in the editing room because whenever I write a script and I imagine it and I do all the preparation, it never comes out exactly the same in after the edits. So being okay with the fact that something will go wrong and something will need to be changed, and it's just like a working process, you're never really done with it. Maybe that's the biggest one.
And also another overarching question, what, if any, issues or problems have you seen personally in the industry or just being an onlooker in the professional world that you hope we as a generation can fix as we grow up and become adults in the industry?
So a lot of people want to go to film school to do film, and film school is insanely expensive if you don't get a scholarship. And it's extremely limited for a lot of people. And film school provides connections and all that. And in all of these like creative industries, it's more so about your connections than what you can actually do. So I think it's still like gate kept from a lot of people who cannot afford film school or who cannot afford to get gear, or there's a lot of people saying that if you're a woman or a person of color in the film industry, you will have to work 10 times higher than the other people who already were, just gifted being in the film industry to just get as far as those people have. So I really wish our generation will start to open up more to different ideas and to more than one perspective in the film industry. And yeah, just like being aware of the space and being aware of the people you work with and being aware of privileges that you have, or your lack thereof, is very important for our generation.
I agree wholeheartedly. That's very true. And I've had a few people say things sort of similar to that. And I hope we're starting to move in that direction, but I think our Gen Z power will like move up into it as we grow older and take our ideals and morals and ideas in the film world when we grow up and start working professionally. So that was perfectly put. And I have two last things. One of my last things is words of advice to aspiring filmmakers or people who are already filmmaking now.
Probably make it simple. It was one of the best advice that I got when I was just starting out. If you want to make a story, just make it simple. Make it two, three characters, one location. Shoot it with your phone. Shoot with whatever you have. It really doesn't have to be complex, because there's a lot of beauty in simplicity, and simplicity can actually resonate with more people. So just making it simple and working with what you have and spending the least amount of money as you can on your first kind of films. Um, yeah, that would be the best of, and also being really mindful of who you're working with, because that can really make or break your experience.
Yeah. And my very, very last thing, plugs, promote yourself, anything's coming out, social media, websites, anything like that.
So a new film, Presque Vous, that's French, but it's coming out in around a few months. So be on the lookout for that on the YouTube. Also my TikTok, Vertical Frame. I talk a lot about my experiences, like tips and tricks I've learned, mistakes I've made, just like kind of a raw version where I really just talk about whatever in film. And people can also contribute. So it's a community out there. Yeah.
That's awesome. That leads me to a follow-up question. How did you get started with TikToks? I've seen your TikToks. They're great. You're giving advice to everybody. It's amazing. Everyone, please go follow her on TikTok.
Thank you. I just started out like a month and a half ago, I'd say, and I was really hesitant to start out, and everybody's saying that, the organic growth has died down and all those things. And, when your friends see you posting on TikTok as if, you're a TikToker, they'll like kind of look at you weird. But I was like, I'll just make a new account where nobody knows me and just start posting about whatever I want to talk about. And that just turned out to be film. And yeah, I just kept posting, and people kept saying what worked, what didn't, what they wanted to know, what they didn't want to know. And there's actually a really amazing community out there, especially in film. Like people really, they will message you, they will say good things, they will say things that you can improve, and then you can comment on other people's. And it's just like an actual community when you can interact with each other. Where I've seen in other communities, it's more like you leave a like, you leave a comment that the other person will never see. But it's a smaller community, which is really nice.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you so much for doing this.
Thank
Everyone,
you for
please go
having
check her
me.
out. Of course. So yeah, that was my talk with Maja. It was amazing to talk to her and hear her perspective and experience in filmmaking. pre-professional filmmaking, which I think is so important for people to hear about. What it's like on the journey to get to college and being accepted into college and being in a performing arts school and making your own short films and producing your own short films and directing them and writing them. She is truly amazing. She was so well spoken. She really knew what she was talking about. I know she's going to go super far. Everyone, please go follow her on Instagram and TikTok and all the social media. Listen to her advice, join her community. Please check out all of her short films on YouTube. She has a new one coming out in a few months, so keep an eye out for that. And yeah, stay tuned.